For many years, Last Man Standing was the kind of show that gave families something to look forward to every Friday night. It was more than just another sitcom on television. It was the kind of program that reminded people of home. The jokes made everyone laugh, the characters felt familiar, and the storylines reflected situations that viewers could connect with. It became part of a routine for countless households. But then, slowly, everything started to change. One by one, key cast members began leaving. Some roles were recast, and the replacements never seemed to capture the same energy. The chemistry that had once made the show so special began to feel different. Viewers started asking questions. Why were their favorite characters disappearing? Was it because of creative disagreements behind the scenes, actors chasing new career opportunities, or was there something deeper happening? The truth turned out to be far more surprising than anyone had expected. After being away from television for several years, Tim Allen made a strong return in 2011 with Last Man Standing. For him, this comeback wasn't an easy choice. He had already been offered several big deals, including one from CBS that would have paid him an incredible $1 million per episode. But he turned that down. He wasn't interested in simply chasing another paycheck. Last Man Standing felt different. Jack Burdett, the creator of the show, had imagined the main character, Mike Baxter, as someone who would feel like an older and wiser version of Tim's famous role as Tim the Toolman Taylor from Home Improvement. At first, Allen wasn't convinced. He thought the role might feel too much like his old character, and he rejected the offer 3 times. What finally changed his mind was a deal that gave him creative control. He would not only star in the series but also work as an executive producer. That meant he would have a say in the direction of the show, something that would later become very important when the series began exploring political themes. ABC had big expectations for Last Man Standing. They wanted it to feel like a modern version of the classic sitcom All in the Family. The plan was to have a conservative main character whose beliefs would constantly be challenged by his family, friends, and co-workers. This setup created opportunities for conflict, humor, and thoughtful conversations about real issues. The network placed the show in a Friday night slot, which was known to be one of the toughest times to get strong ratings. But they were counting on Tim Allen's popularity to draw viewers. Their gamble paid off. When the show premiered in October 2011, 13.2 million people tuned in. That made it ABC's biggest comedy debut in several years. Even more impressive was that the show dominated its time slot and performed especially well among viewers aged 18 to 49, a key demographic for advertisers. For a Friday night program, that kind of success was rare. Over the next 6 seasons, the show kept its momentum. It averaged more than 8 million viewers per episode, proving to be a reliable hit for ABC. That's why fans were shocked when the network suddenly cancelled it in 2017, especially since the series still had strong ratings. The cancellation wasn't the only surprise. Over the years, several main cast members had left the show or been recast, and those changes had already shaken the foundation of the series. For many fans, the departure of beloved characters was harder to accept than even the cancellation itself. One of the earliest changes happened with the role of Kristen Baxter, the eldest daughter of Tim Allen's character. Kristen was played in the first season by Alexandra Krosny. Kristen's storyline was one that many viewers found relatable and emotional. She was a young single mother who had her son Boyd at just 17. She worked as a waitress while living with her parents, trying to balance the challenges of raising a child and building a future for herself. Alexandra Krosny played the part with a perfect blend of humor and sincerity. She was witty and sharp in her exchanges with Tim Allen's character, often delivering quick comebacks that made their father-daughter relationship a highlight of the show. At the same time, she brought warmth and vulnerability to Kristen's struggles as a young mom, which made her deeply relatable for many viewers. But after season 1, something unexpected happened. ABC announced that Alexandra Krosny would not be returning for season 2. Officially, the reason was said to be creative differences. Behind the scenes, however, the situation was more complicated. The producers had decided they wanted to change Kristen's story. Instead of continuing to focus on her as a young mother trying to figure out her life, they wanted to make her seem older and more experienced. They thought this adjustment would create new ways for her to challenge Mike Baxter's views, especially when it came to political and social issues. To make this shift work, they recast the role with actress Amanda Fuller, who brought a different energy to Kristen. Another factor was appearance. Alexandra Krosny, who played Kristen, was actually younger than Molly Ephraim, who played her younger sister Mandy. The producers felt that visually, this seemed out of place. Amanda Fuller, being older, fit better into the role of the eldest sibling. Kristen wasn't the only character who went through major changes. In December 2011, pop star Nick Jonas made a surprise appearance on the show as Ryan Fogel's son, Kristen's ex-boyfriend and the father of her child. His casting was meant to grab attention and boost ratings during a Christmas episode. At the time, Jonas was only 19 years old, and his version of Ryan was portrayed as a nervous, immature teenager who had run away from his responsibilities. The show even described him as a numbskull who had left Kristen to raise their baby alone. While his role was small and not very developed, Jonas's guest appearance drew buzz from fans. By season 2, however, the showrunner Tim Doyle wanted to take Ryan's character in a new direction. Instead of keeping him as a one-dimensional deadbeat dad, Doyle envisioned Ryan as a smarter and more complex character who could challenge Mike Baxter's conservative worldview. The plan was to make Ryan a regular presence in the show and give him deeper connections to the Baxter family. To achieve this, the role was recast with Jordan Masterson in 2012. Masterson, known for his work on the show Greek, completely reinvented the character. His version of Ryan was thoughtful, politically outspoken, and mature enough to stand toe-to-toe with Mike Baxter in debates. Suddenly, Ryan wasn't just a scared teenager anymore. He became someone who could argue passionately about politics, values, and life choices, creating new sources of tension and comedy in the show. Over time, Ryan's character grew even more. He eventually opened his own cannabis business, humorously named Bud's Buds. In later seasons, the writers played with the irony of Ryan unknowingly adopting capitalist behaviors, which Mike found hilarious. Then came 2017, the year that changed everything. Fans of Last Man Standing were stunned when ABC announced the show was cancelled after 6 successful seasons. This wasn't just any show. It was one of the network's biggest hits, regularly drawing more than 8 million viewers. It had found a way to dominate Friday nights, a time slot where most shows struggled. So why would ABC end it? The timing raised eyebrows. Just 2 months earlier, Tim Allen had made headlines during an appearance on Jimmy Kimmel Live. He joked that being a conservative in Hollywood felt like living in 1930s Germany. The comment caused a stir, and many people wondered if the cancellation of Last Man Standing was connected to politics. ABC President Channing Dungey denied that politics had anything to do with it. She explained that the network wanted to move away from airing comedies on Friday nights and instead focus on fantasy and science fiction programming. But to fans, and even to some of the cast members, that explanation felt hollow. Tim Allen himself tweeted that he was stunned and blindsided by the decision. Nancy Travis, who played his TV wife Vanessa, expressed her heartbreak to fans and thanked them for supporting the show. Hector Elizondo, who played Ed, hinted in an interview that politics may indeed have been a factor. Meanwhile, younger cast members like Molly Ephraim and Caitlin Dever began moving on to other opportunities. They didn't expect the show to return and started building new careers elsewhere. Fans, however, weren't ready to let go. Almost immediately, they launched one of the largest Save the Show campaigns ever seen. Within a single day, a petition to bring Last Man Standing back had gathered more than 400,000 signatures. On Twitter, fans flooded the platform with millions of posts using the hashtag #SaveLastManStanding. Some went as far as sending toy tools to ABC's offices, a playful reference to Tim Allen's handyman character. Others paid for billboards in cities like Los Angeles and New York, demanding the network reverse its decision. Even politicians weighed in. Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker suggested publicly that the cancellation may have been politically motivated. Behind the scenes, however, the reasons for the cancellation were more complicated. Producing the show was expensive. ABC had to pay $3 million for each episode because Last Man Standing was produced by 20th Century Fox. On top of that, Tim Allen's salary, which was more than $200,000 per episode, added significantly to the costs. After ABC cancelled the series, executives from Fox began shopping it around to other networks, including CMT and NBC. For a while, the future of the show remained uncertain. But eventually, in May 2018, Fox itself decided to pick it up, giving the beloved sitcom a second life. When Fox announced in 2018 that it was reviving Last Man Standing, fans felt like their voices had been heard. For a year, they had fought to keep the show alive, and now it was officially coming back. Tim Allen called it a victory for the fans, crediting their relentless support as the real reason the series was saved. For him, it wasn't just about getting his job back. It was about proving that audiences still cared about traditional sitcoms that mixed humor with real-life issues. Fox executives explained their decision with simple logic. The show had a proven audience of millions, and that kind of loyalty was rare in television. They also saw an opportunity to build their Friday night lineup around Last Man Standing, giving them a solid base of viewers. For the cast and crew, it felt like a second chance, a rare opportunity to continue something that most of them thought was gone forever. But the revival also came with challenges. Not every actor was able to return. One of the most noticeable absences was Molly Ephraim, who had played Mandy Baxter, the quirky and stylish middle daughter. Fans had grown attached to her unique energy. She played Mandy as a character full of charm, sarcasm, and unexpected wisdom beneath her comic surface. Unfortunately, by the time Fox revived the series, Ephraim had already moved on to other projects and could not come back. Instead, the role was recast with Molly McCook. At first, the change was jarring for many fans. McCook's version of Mandy was taller, blonder, and brought a different tone to the role. Viewers who had spent years with Ephraim struggled to adjust, and social media was full of debates about whether or not the new Mandy worked. McCook herself admitted in interviews that she knew it would be difficult stepping into such a beloved role. Over time, some fans warmed up to her, while others always felt the original Mandy had been irreplaceable. Another cast adjustment came with Caitlin Dever, who played Eve, the youngest Baxter daughter. Eve was introduced as the athletic, tomboyish daughter who often connected most closely with Mike Baxter's conservative views. Her sharp wit and competitive nature made her a fan favorite. But by the time the Fox revival began, Caitlin Dever's career was taking off. She had opportunities in film and streaming projects that made it hard for her to commit to the demanding schedule of a full-time sitcom role. As a result, Eve's character appeared less frequently in later seasons, often written as being away at school or visiting the family during holidays. While she still made special appearances, her reduced presence left a noticeable gap for longtime fans. Despite these challenges, the Fox revival of Last Man Standing performed well. Viewers who had missed the Baxter family were happy to have them back on screen. The show leaned even more into topical issues, continuing its tradition of using comedy to explore real-world debates. Mike Baxter's conservative values clashed with Ryan's liberal ideals, leading to spirited arguments that reflected the political divide happening in the real world. Sometimes these debates were light-hearted, and other times they hit close to home, but they always reminded viewers that the show wasn't afraid to tackle tough topics through humor. As the series moved into its later seasons, the writers also began exploring deeper themes about family, change, and the passage of time. The Baxter children grew older, their careers and relationships developed, and the show highlighted the bittersweet reality of parents watching their kids build independent lives. For Tim Allen's character, Mike, this brought moments of both pride and reflection. Many parents watching the show could see themselves in those storylines, making the series relatable in new ways. One memorable arc was the continued growth of Ryan's character. Once dismissed as an irresponsible teenager, Ryan became one of the show's most complex figures. His cannabis business success created ironic humor, since his anti-capitalist ideals often clashed with the very business practices he now depended on. This storyline allowed the writers to poke fun at contradictions in both liberal and conservative ideologies, keeping the comedy balanced while also thought-provoking. The revival also allowed Nancy Travis, as Vanessa Baxter, to shine even more. Vanessa had always been the heart of the family, balancing Mike's sometimes rigid views with warmth, patience, and understanding. In later seasons, her role expanded as she explored her own career changes and personal growth. Her character gave the show an anchor, showing that while families argue and face challenges, love and respect hold everything together. By the time Last Man Standing reached its final season, fans knew they were watching the end of an era. The announcement that Season 9 would be the last brought mixed emotions. On one hand, viewers were grateful for the extra years Fox had given them after ABC's cancellation. On the other, saying goodbye once again felt difficult. For Tim Allen, the ending was emotional. He spoke openly in interviews about how much the show meant to him, describing it as one of the most rewarding experiences of his career. The final season took on a reflective tone. Storylines often centered around legacy, family traditions, and the idea of passing things on to the next generation. In one touching arc, Mike considered what it meant to leave behind not just a business, but values and memories for his children and grandchildren. The show even addressed real-world events, including the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, weaving them into its storytelling in a way that felt timely without losing its humor. The last episode aired in May 2021. It was filled with heartfelt moments, humor, and a sense of closure. One of the most symbolic choices the writers made was to end the show with the disappearance of Mike's beloved truck, which had been stolen. While it was played for laughs, it also carried a deeper meaning. The truck represented years of memories, much like the show itself. Losing it was bittersweet, but it also reminded viewers that life goes on, and what truly matters is the family you share it with. When the curtain finally closed on Last Man Standing, it left behind a complicated but meaningful legacy. The show had survived a surprising cancellation, an unlikely revival, and numerous cast changes. It had sparked debates, delivered laughs, and told stories that resonated with millions of people. It proved that television comedy could still tackle real issues without losing its heart. Looking back, the journey of Last Man Standing was about much more than ratings or network decisions. It was about resilience. It was about the bond between a show and its audience. Fans had fought to keep it alive because it reflected something they valued: family, humor, and the messy, funny, sometimes frustrating reality of different people living under the same roof with different ideas. For Tim Allen, the show allowed him to play a role that connected generations. For the cast, it became a career-defining experience. And for viewers, it was a reminder that even when favorite shows change or come to an end, the impact they leave behind continues. People still talk about the early days when Alexandra Krosny played Kristen, about Molly Ephraim's unforgettable version of Mandy, about Caitlin Dever's sharp-tongued Eve, and about the debates between Mike and Ryan that often mirrored dinner-table conversations across America. Even today, years after its finale, Last Man Standing remains a show people revisit. Streaming platforms have kept it alive, and new viewers continue to discover it. The laughter, the lessons, and the love at the core of the Baxter family still feel as fresh as they did in 2011. In the end, the story of Last Man Standing wasn't just about a sitcom that entertained millions. It was about a cultural moment that showed how television can bring people together, spark conversations, and sometimes even become part of a family's weekly tradition. When Fox announced that Last Man Standing was coming back, it felt like a second chance for the show that so many fans loved. But the revival wasn't just about fan support. Fox had been paying attention to how well ABC did with the Roseanne revival, which pulled in millions of viewers. Seeing that kind of success, Fox decided to take a risk of its own. They put $50 million into bringing Last Man Standing back. Just days before the official announcement, Tim Allen hinted at the news on Twitter, telling fans to keep it up, a sign that the deal was already in progress. But getting the show back on the air wasn't as easy as it looked from the outside. The timeline was extremely tight. Fox announced the revival in May 2018 and wanted the premiere ready for September of that same year. That meant the production team had just a few short months to pull everything together. The writers began working on new scripts in June, giving them only 15 weeks to prepare before filming had to start. By August, they were back at the same studio where the show had once filmed, but there was another problem: the original set had been torn down. Everything had to be rebuilt from scratch, costing both time and money. To meet the deadlines, the team worked at a rapid pace, shooting 3 episodes every week. Then came another hurdle when the COVID-19 pandemic hit, pausing production and making things even harder. Fox was determined to keep the revival at a high standard, so they increased the budget. Each episode now cost $1.1 million to produce, compared to $800,000 during the ABC years. Tim Allen also received a raise, earning $235,000 per episode, which put him among the highest-paid actors on television at the time. To help cover these costs, Fox sold streaming rights to Hulu and CMT for $1.5 million per episode. The production team also found ways to save money, such as filming more efficiently and reducing travel for location shoots. All of these efforts paid off. The first season of the revival premiered to over 8 million viewers, proving that fans were still loyal to the Baxter family. But just when things seemed back on track, new challenges appeared, especially when it came to casting. When ABC cancelled Last Man Standing in 2017, actress Molly Ephraim, who had played Mandy Baxter for 6 seasons, thought the show was over for good. She quickly moved on to other opportunities, signing up for new projects like Brockmire and Halt and Catch Fire. By the time Fox revived the series a year later, Molly was already busy with commitments and couldn't return. The producers now faced a tough decision. They needed a new Mandy. They didn't want someone who looked exactly like Ephraim, they wanted someone who could bring something different to the role. After an extensive search, they chose Molly McCook. She didn't resemble Ephraim at all, but instead of ignoring the change, the writers leaned into it. They even made jokes on the show to acknowledge the new look. When McCook first appeared in season 7, many fans were upset. On social media, the hashtag #NotMyMandy began trending as viewers complained about the recast. But McCook didn't let the criticism stop her. Rather than copying Ephraim's version of the character, she created her own. She highlighted Mandy's love of fashion and her dream of becoming a designer, while the writers gave her more serious storylines, such as struggles with pregnancy and her relationship with Kyle. Over time, fans began to accept her, especially after emotional moments with Tim Allen's character, Mike Baxter. By then, McCook had proven that she could bring something unique to Mandy and make the role her own. Molly Ephraim wasn't the only actress whose career took a different path. Caitlin Dever, who played Eve Baxter, also faced a similar situation. After the show was cancelled in 2017, she decided to shift her focus to film. That decision became a turning point in her career. She landed a breakout role in Kathryn Bigelow's Detroit, which opened the door to more opportunities. Within just 18 months, she starred in Booksmart alongside Beanie Feldstein, and in the Netflix miniseries Unbelievable, which earned her Golden Globe and BAFTA nominations. Booksmart also became a hit at the box office, pulling in $25 million and receiving critical acclaim. By the time Fox revived Last Man Standing, Caitlin's schedule was too packed for her to return as a regular. Instead, she transitioned into a recurring role, appearing in 7 episodes of season 7. By season 8, her appearances dropped to just 2. The COVID-19 pandemic made things even more complicated. Quarantine rules required 2 weeks of isolation for every appearance, forcing the writers to adjust storylines around her limited availability. Sometimes, they even wrote entire episodes to fit into the short windows of time she had between film projects. In the final season, Caitlin appeared in only 3 episodes, including the series finale. To explain her character's reduced presence, the writers decided that Eve Baxter had left for the Air Force Academy. This made her rare appearances feel more impactful and emotional. The show even used video calls as a clever way to keep Eve connected to the Baxter family. One standout episode centered on Eve's relationship with her nieces, tying up long-running storylines while giving fans a touching farewell moment. Despite her busy schedule, Caitlin remained loyal to the show that launched her career while balancing major projects like Dopesick with Michael Keaton, Dear Evan Hansen, and landing the role of Abby in HBO's The Last of Us Season 2. Even with these casting hurdles, Last Man Standing remained strong in the ratings. In 2020, Fox announced that the 9th season would be the show's last. Fans were shocked, especially since the show was still drawing in an average of 8.3 million viewers per episode, making it Fox's second highest-rated comedy. Producer Kevin Abbott later revealed that the team had already begun planning for a possible 10th season. One idea was for Amanda Fuller's character Kristen to take over Outdoor Man and rename it Outdoor Woman, showing how the family business could evolve with a new generation. They also hoped to bring back guest stars like Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Richard Conn for more storylines that connected to the show's earlier years. As the end drew near, Abbott said Fox executives wanted something special to mark the final season. At first, he wasn't interested in big gimmicks, believing the show worked best with small, family-centered stories. But then, writer John Hauer pitched an idea that got everyone excited, bringing back Tim the Toolman Taylor from Home Improvement. For years, the team had considered crossover ideas connecting the two shows, even discussing a shared universe that explained what happened to the Taylor family. Some ideas were ambitious but never came to life, such as a Tool Time reunion special within the Last Man Standing universe or even a storyline where Mike Baxter discovered he was distantly related to Tim Taylor. There were even talks of a Christmas special uniting cast members from both series, but scheduling and legal rights always got in the way. Making the crossover happen wasn't easy. Disney owned the rights to Home Improvement, so the deal required tough negotiations. Abbott revealed that approval didn't come until the day before the script reading. At one point, he even considered moving forward without Disney's permission just to get things moving. Tim Allen, who would play both Mike Baxter and Tim Taylor, also had conditions. He wanted Tim Taylor to be treated with respect and to have a believable reason for being in Colorado. The writers rewrote the episode 3 times to make sure everyone was satisfied, including the original Home Improvement creators. Tim Allen took the role seriously. He rewatched old Home Improvement episodes to prepare, making sure the two characters felt distinct. The episode included clever nods to Home Improvement, like references to Wilson and Tool Time, and even gave an update on what happened to Tim Taylor after the original series ended. When the crossover finally aired, it became one of the most memorable moments in Last Man Standing's history. It was a way of tying together two beloved shows, giving fans both nostalgia and closure at the same time. The revival of Last Man Standing was a story filled with challenges, risks, and changes. From rebuilding sets under impossible deadlines to recasting major characters, to negotiating crossovers that almost didn't happen, the journey was never simple. Yet, through it all, the show managed to keep its heart, the story of a family that viewers could see themselves in. Even though it ended after 9 seasons, its legacy lives on as proof of how powerful fan support can be, how actors can grow beyond the roles that first made them famous, and how television can bring people together, even when everything behind the scenes is complicated.